Gerard at 64. He's playing really good golf. I think he's a great option.
Let's throw him in. So we go Fitzpatrick, Gerard to start. So we have 8,400. We can just hammer all the guys in the 8Ks again.
Yeah, we can do the exact same thing.
Because there's no one. See, here's the problem. There's no one in the 9s, and I don't think that I'm alone on this. We really couldn't make a decision. People are just wigged out by this 9K range. I don't think anyone likes any of the guys.
I love Justin Rose.
Okay, we'll throw in Justin Rose for you. So there's a separator right there. No one's going to use Rose, but he's going to be what, like 11% owned in big money, in big GPPs and single entries. He'll be like 5%.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically been like 10% flat in every single major so far, and all he does is ball out in majors. So I like Rose quite a bit.
The only other guy who hasn't been good that you could get away with, actually, there's 2 in the 6K range they didn't bring up. Straka and Connors would be the 2 I would look at.
Yeah, I've done the Connors and Straka thing so many times this year. It's usually not worked out. Connors at least is showing signs that maybe he's playing a little bit better golf. But I think with Rose and Gerard, we can go like Tom Kim, Siwoo Kim if we want to do that here.
But we don't need to. We have $8,000 left. Like for a single entry, would you want to go Tom Kim, Siwoo Kim and see what we have left? Like that's probably like a Rory.
I think at the very least we should see what it gives us and then decide if that's something we want.
It gives us Tommy who, listen, I'm just going to throw this out here. I think Tommy's the worst play on the slate.
I don't totally disagree.
At Mayo Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience presented by Underdog. Code Mayo at Underdog right now. Hop in on the Open Championship Fantasy Props. Alex Blickle from FTN Fantasy on the line to walk through the Millionaire Maker DraftKings strategy. Tambo said he would be here. Tambo is not here. Tambo had an emergency, Blickle, so it's just me and you holding down the fort.
That's all right. We'll have to bring the heat ourselves, and I think we can do that. Should be a really fun week and really fun conversation.
All right. Well, I think that I have the winning lineup. Me and approximately half the field will build the same lineup, and we're all going to win. Isn't that fun?
It's very fun, yeah. And I think pricing makes it feel that way. Like you can't possibly build a lineup this week that you don't feel really good about every guy in your lineup.
Well, did you see the lineup that I built? Did you see it up on the screen beforehand?
I did not.
Okay, so go with me here. You build the chalk lineup. What does the chalk lineup build look like in your mind? And I'll compare it to the one that I already have built.
Okay. I will start in the 6Ks. I'll throw Tom Kim and Siwoo Kim in there to start.
Siwoo Kim, Tom Kim. Done deal.
Then it gets a little bit tougher because now it's like we could go many different ways. I think we'll go with Fitzpatrick and Tommy next.
Okay. 2 Brits, and that's good for anyone who missed the picks and bet show and the one and done, as Cust picked no players. His guys who can't win is anyone from England. So throwing in English players is pretty good.
Oh my God. Of all the can't wins, that might be the most egregious that I've heard.
Well, in fairness, as he pointed out, I believe that no Brit has won in England since 1969, I think the year was.
Okay.
It's tough.
I think there are more really good Brits nowadays than there have been at many times throughout those years. Okay, let's see. To round this out, we can go, what do we have left? 79? Okay, yeah, I think this is perfect. Let's go Bobby Mack and Sam Burns. I don't even know completely if Sam Burns is playing, but as of now, he seems to be in the field.
Yeah, well, he's in the field. He's at the course, so that's a positive sign for Sam Burns. It seems like his wife had their child. He flew over, so it seems like he's going to be playing in the Open Championship. Do you think that will give people pause on Sam Burns? That I know if it was me, I don't know if it would be a good thing or a bad thing. So I was trying to think about the week this time, like 4 months ago, after my 3rd kid was born, like where my mind was. I was just a scattershot everywhere. Maybe playing some golf, feeling a bit free would be fine.
Yeah, I would think so. And I think, while it might give people pause, it's also not going to give people pause when they look at and see how well Sam Burns has played in major championships so far this year. So I think he's going to be a pretty easy click in the 7s.
Of note, Cuss picked to win, Sam Burns.
There you go. So maybe don't play him, but that just shows that he's on a lot of people's minds.
He does not fit a whole lot of the trends, Blickle. I know how much you love trends. That a lot of it just really has to do with his Open Championship history. He's just been bad at Open Championships. Outside of Louis and Morikawa. Morikawa was a first-timer at the Open. He ends up winning, but he had previously won a major championship that year before it, and Louis just kind of came out of nowhere. He's one of the biggest outliers ever. Everyone else has at least a top 20, and I think 95% of them have like a top 5 as well.
It's not shocking that he hasn't been that great in Opens because he's not a very good wind player. But as you mentioned before we jumped on here, is like while there is going to be breeze this week, it's not going to be anywhere near as windy or as ugly of weather conditions as we very often see in Open Championships. So that might be a plus for him as well. He's been really, really good on difficult golf courses when scoring conditions are tough. So I think this course is going to play pretty tough this year, and so yeah, there are positives for him as well.
So your lineup of the two Kims in the $6,000 area, that might actually be the move. I actually did not consider that when I built out my chalk lineup. I went with a more balanced approach with Tom Kim. So we have 1, 2, 3 of the same players. Mine went, see if I can bring it up here, Matt Fitzpatrick and Tom Kim, first 2 clicks. They're going to be the 2 highest owned, right?
Certainly among them. I also think you have both Clark and Goddard up in here. Like if I went a different route, I think Clark and Goddard would have been 2 of the first clicks. There are so many guys in this field who are like dramatically underpriced for what they have done lately. And then there's also like a big set of guys who are dramatically underpriced for just who they've been over the last few years. It's a really kind of weird dynamic where most of the time there's a pattern to who is like really, really underpriced. This week is just like DraftKings said, let's make everybody underpriced and just see who people like.
So Fitz, Tom Kim, Wyndham Clark, Chris Goddard, Victor Hovland, and Robert McIntyre leaves $200 on the table. These are just guys that are going to objectively be popular, so I decided to throw them all into one lineup.
Yeah, I think this is certainly up there for like the most likely lineup to be duped.
Well, hopefully it's not. Don't dupe me, bro, because this is the winning lineup right now. I bet on a few of these guys to win. I bet on Fitzpatrick to win. I bet on Hovland to win. I bet on McIntyre to win. I do not have JJ Spawn in this lineup. Another guy I bet. Oh, he's $6,700. All right, so let's try this. Let's enter our 2 lineups because we don't want to build them on the show and not win. And we'll bring up the first one that I just built. So the one without Siwoo. How do we get off of this and make it like a real lineup with keeping the core of both the style and the guys that I want to play? Is moving from Tom Kim to JJ Spawn step 1 here because they're about the same price and I like both of them about the same?
Yeah, I think you could do that, and certainly Spawn will be, I think, lower owned than Tom Kim, who's
yes,
obviously on a tear.
I would guarantee that actually.
yeah, I would come pretty close to guaranteeing it as well. I think my next question would be like of the 8Ks, which of these guys do you feel the least confident in? I have my answer, but I want to hear yours.
Oh, of the guys that I've picked or just in general?
Of the 4 8K guys in this lineup currently, who are you most likely to come off of?
Probably Hovland, although I bet him to win, as weird as that sounds.
My answer would have been McIntyre. I really like Hovland. I'm with you on him.
What is it about McIntyre that you don't like? He figured out how to hit approach shots again. This is all we wanted.
True. It's more so that like I just don't necessarily trust that that's going to continue. I do think he's a good play. I just think, man, the other 3 guys are phenomenal plays. So as long as their ownership isn't like insanely out of hand, I don't know how you stare at either Hovland, Clark, or Goddard up and don't feel really, really good about that click. Because all of those guys like not just have real win equity and have been playing really good golf, but they also score like crazy. So they are the exact type of golfer that I like to target, in addition to just seemingly being really underpriced.
I think that we can make a pretty compelling case against all of these guys of why they won't win. Like if I gave it to you with Bobby Mack, you don't feel like he's on the same skill level as some of these guys, and you don't expect his approach play to keep up as hot as it's been over the past 6 weeks or so. But if I look at the other guys, there's nits to be picked with all of them. Although, I bet on some of them. I really like all these plays. If Wyndham Clark stops hitting fairways, which, listen, he can club down to like 5 irons and smack it 300 yards at this course. That's in play. Yeah. But if he's asked to hit a driver on more narrow fairways where the penalty to miss is gigantic, now at the U.S. Open, he got away with it most of the time. Even when he didn't get away with it somehow in the rough, he got away with it. That's just not going to happen here. You got to be in the short grass off of the tee. If he clubs down, he should be fine. But if he's not and he hits his driver like normal, kind of like he did in Scotland this week, which was fine for the Renaissance Club, not good for Birkdale. He's going to have some problems. Victor Hovland, if you ask him to chip, there's a chance he chips you out of the tournament. He's been a lot better. And I actually do like Open Championship type of venues for him. It's better to run it by you, because Cust and I discussed this a little bit, that where they give you so many different options around the green for the types of shots that you want to hit, I feel like that's advantageous to someone like Hovland, where he's not horrible around the greens when he has a style of shot that he likes. It's when you ask him to flop a ball 10 feet in front of him, getting to spin on a dime, he just can't do it. But here he can keep the ball on the ground in most places. He can roll it up. You can putt from off the green. That with those extra options, I'm not, famous last words with Victor Hovland, I'm not that concerned about his around the green this week.
I think I agree with you there. The part that I very much agree is like he's very clearly better in his short game, where he can put a lot of shaft lean and kind of hit that like low driven pitch shot rather than hitting something up in the air with spin that's meant to stop quickly. And you typically can play that type of shot around here. Now, he does still sometimes struggle with contact, even when trying to hit that shot, and, he'll hit it high on the face or something and come up 20, 25 feet short. So it doesn't mean that his short game problem is solved when he gets on a course like this, but he has been better. And with Hovland, like the thought is more that when everyone else is chipping, he might just hit it to 20 feet over and over and over again, because his ball striking has been awesome the last few weeks. And I think the really important thing there is like he's had events kind of all season where the approach play has been there, but his driving accuracy has not been anywhere near as good as it was when he was literally one of the best players in the world, like back in 2023. And the last two events, but the Travelers and now the Scottish, he drove the ball like vintage Victor Hovland, in addition to having the iron play. So I'm really, really high on him this week. And actually, like, his short game's been quite good over the last few months, which it sounds like neither of us think is totally sustainable, but at the very least, it means he's less likely to just totally destroy his week with poor short game.
And you can see some of the weeks where he either puts himself out of a part of his game. If you go over to betspertsgolf.com right now, use code Mayo, get 25% off. The ownership projections will be up soon. You can run your models. You can check in on all the players, use the head-to-head simulator, but it's great for making these DFS decisions that you can see the approach play has been just amazing since Doral. And that hasn't necessarily led to great form. Like, he could not figure out the greens at the Renaissance Club last week. I wouldn't put too much stock into that, because Scottie also couldn't figure out the greens at the Renaissance Club this year or last year. And then he led the field in putting at Portrush. So week to week, not that big of a deal. We see the spikes in the putting in there. But the chipping, as you mentioned, like, some big gains too, which is just not something that you're used to. It's like when we spoke about Siwoo's putter a little bit ago, that you're like, hey, it actually hasn't been that bad, which is true. But under the pressure conditions of a major championship, would you ever expect Siwoo to hit a 5-foot putt?
Probably not. I think with Hovland too, like, it's worth remembering that sometimes, in fact, quite frequently, your ability to get up and down is more predicated on where you missed than how good you are around the green. And because Hovland's ball striking has been so incredibly dialed, like, I think there's also a chance that it's not so much that his short game has gotten better. It's just that he's very, very consistently missed in the right spot, especially like, on a lot of par fives, like, especially on these golf courses. Like, think last week at the Scottish, there's so much undulation on some of these greens where you can have a pitch shot from 40 yards where if all of the slopes are working in your favor, it's very straightforward. Whereas you could be 20, 25 feet away from the pin, but the slopes are working against you, and now it's really tough to get it close. Strokes gain categories don't know that difference. They just see one is 20 feet from the hole, the other's 40 yards from the hole, and they think that the 40-yarder is a much tougher shot. That isn't always the case. And so I think there's probably some of that as well, where Hovland's short game hasn't actually been this much better than as the numbers suggest. It's more that he's just so in control of his misses right now.
So even when we go back to that lineup that we were talking about, so it has Goddard and Clark. I think you can make the case that Clark's driving goes a bit wayward. And with Goddard, we've just seen Goddard blow up a bunch. Just like at the U.S. Open, I bet him to win. I like Goddard this week, obviously. However, sometimes he doesn't chip very well. Sometimes he doesn't putt very well. And the driver can get a bit leaky, and you like him at courses a little bit better sometimes where you can miss fairways. This is not one of those places. Shinnecock Hills, although the fairways were massive, not a place where you can afford to miss many fairways, and he started missing fairways.
Yeah. Yeah, agree there. In terms of like what to do with this lineup, I think the next step might be, so we said Bobby, but you could pick any of those 4 8K guys. I think it's now find a more contrarian pivot off of any of these guys. You could also find a contrarian pivot off of Fitzpatrick, and now you're just looking for a 1v1 or a 2v2, including the spawn pivot that you made. So yeah, like Bryson was the first one that came to my mind as well. So now you could leave Bobby Mack in there.
Yeah, you can leave Bobby Mack in. You can try to finagle a way up to Fleetwood. I still, in the betting odds reflect this, and the DraftKings pricing reflects this. Why is Tommy $500 more than Matt Fitzpatrick?
I don't know, but I think Tommy will still get a decent amount of ownership. I think Scottie, Rory, Tommy, Fitz are all going to get a fair amount. I'm a little bit hesitant on Schauffele and Rahm.
The answer
I
is
want
no.
to say Rahm at his price is going to be really, really popular, but I don't know that that's going to be the case. And then Schauffele finally didn't really play well. Ordinarily, this price tag, being cheaper than both Tommy and Fitzpatrick would make Schauffele a really popular option. So I think all of these guys are going to get a fair amount. Whereas maybe you go to a pairing of Rose and Cam Young instead of Fitzpatrick and one of the 8K guys, and maybe that's the way you get contrarian up top instead.
Well, let's try to break down in our favorite picks from the 9K plus range. So you got Scottie at 13.3, then Rory at 11.9, big drop to Fleetwood and Fitzpatrick at 10.5 and 10,000. Schauffele, Rahm, Ludwig, Rose, Cam Young is the entire 9K range. I'll even throw in Hatton at 8,900 because that price really hasn't changed all that much for him from Scottish to this week at the Open Championship. If he had just not triple bogeyed the first hole in Scotland, things would have been looking a little bit better for old Tyrrell. His irons were piss poor, just like Scotty's were a week ago. And again, you and I discussed this a little bit pre-show, but I am emphasizing guys that played last week. I think that there is something to this. There's a reason that the past 5 winners all played in the Scottish Open, ranging from guys as good as Scottie Scheffler to guys like first-time Open Championship player Colin Morikawa or Brian Harmon, different guys that ended up going in. So 4 of those 5 guys came top 12 or better. Morikawa ends up missing the cut. But as you reiterated to me, we really spoke about that Morikawa situation, that just being on the grounds, understanding, getting acclimated to the time zone, the weather, playing with a hoodie on or a beanie on or a toque, as we call it in Canada, and then the turf interaction with a lot of these clubs can be a huge advantage.
Yeah, if you remember Morikawa back when he won, he had a really bad iron week at the Genesis, and I don't even remember if it was called the Genesis at the time, at the Scottish Open, and he made the point that the irons weren't interacting with the turf the way that he wanted. The turf was so much firmer than what he's used to in America. And so for the Open Championship, he put a different set of irons in the bag. That's a very clear-cut example of the preparation actually being causal of that success and not just, some type of selection bias of why guys who have won here recently played the week before at the Scottish. So I think there's more to this trend than the vast majority of trends.
Again, I will say that I think that the Open Championship high result experience, learning how to win on a type of grass, a type of course layout that you're just not used to, that you see twice a year or hell, even once a year for a lot of these guys, I think there is something to that as well. It's why when you see the average starts made of Open Championship winners, even in the past 15 years, it's 38 major appearances is the average for the winner versus some of the other ones where it's 16 or 21. It's a big gap.
Yeah, I have a kind of I don't know if this is a contrarian take or not, but I think that the way that these Open Championships test players is actually quite similar to how Augusta tests players, in the sense that Augusta's green complexes have so much more undulation than the average PGA Tour course. And so a lot of the time, you're not hitting to the middle of the green, you're hitting to the middle of a certain section and segment of the green, similar to the way we talked about Aronimink, honestly, where if you're not in the right segment, the green complex is going to repel the ball away. You're going to have a really difficult, short game shot, things of that nature. And so I think in that regard, they're kind of similar. Like you can think of 6 at Augusta, the par 3, where like say the pin is back right. If you miss 20 feet left, it's rolling down the slope, and now you have a 70-foot putt to a pin that's like 10 feet above your head. It's insane how much undulation there is. And I think a lot of these green complexes remind me of that sort of challenge where you just have to be so precise with your approach shot to get it in the right segment of the green so that you're getting the bounce that you're looking for and all that stuff. It's a really, really good test.
Interesting. So of these top guys, the top 4, Scottie, Rory, Fleetwood, and Fitz, if you had to put them in order of the preference that you wanted to play them in, who would come out as number 1? Because I think that myself and most of the world, since we're all betting Fitzpatrick to win anyway, the answer is probably Fitzpatrick.
He looks really, really good in a lot of the splits that I'm working with this week. So major championship performance in wind, performance on difficult golf courses. He doesn't project quite as well as the others, but I think to some degree that's expected, especially when you compare him to like Rory and Scottie. I don't know who of these guys I prefer at the moment. I kind of feel like I have so much confidence in all of them that I would rather let the rest of my lineup dictate who I'm using at the top than really feel like I want to hone in on someone at the top of lineups. And so I know that's kind of like a cheap way to answer the question, but it's more that like, I don't think we're going to win DraftKings tournaments this week by taking stances on expensive guys. I think we're going to win DraftKings tournaments this week being right about the rest of the lineup and then just kind of hoping that we get the many great options up the top right.
Well, this is where I come back to it a little bit with the first lineup that I built that had the 4 8K guys, and obviously all really good players. But even when you go back, I'm trying to think of the last player who would have been ranked outside like the top 25 in the world who won the Open Championship. Is it Louis? Like 15 years ago? Like we talk about this at Augusta all the time, that the very best players win. That's kind of been the case at the Open. Brian Harman being maybe a lone exception. But even he was pretty high up. He just had terrible odds that week.
Yeah, he had to be the lowest, but I think you're probably right about that, where like DraftKings pricing and sportsbooks odds for him to win were kind of outpacing how much he had fallen in the world ranks.
And that's because people don't like Brian Harman. No one wants to bet on Brian Harman. No one wants to see Brian Harman in a final group and watching 25-hour round. And again, but it's no different than like if Sergio was in this, that Sergio's odds, well, no one would bet Sergio anyway because he's not good anymore. But let's say he should be like, you modeled him out at like 200 to 1. There's a chance Sergio would be like 300 to 1 because they'd be like, yeah, put him whatever. No one's going to bet Sergio. Everyone hates betting Sergio.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
So I think that the decision of the 9Ks becomes really interesting because I do agree with you. I think that Tommy will be the lowest of those top 4. Could be wrong, but I just think when you have the chance to play Fitz for $500 cheaper, when you can play the better player for $500 cheaper, most people are going to make that decision. It's this 9K range that I think that if you can unlock who it is from here, all of a sudden you're going to be doing pretty well. And in my mind, I want to say Xander. None of these guys honestly stick out to me as like, man, these guys are good plays, which is probably why you want to take 3 of these guys.
Right. Like this to me is the area where we can actually find separators near the top where like, let's say you really like all the cheap chalk. You want to go play Tom Kim. You want to play Siwoo Kim at $6,800 and $6,900. If you're eating all the chalk down below, you've got to find a way to separate from the field up top. And I'll go back to the 2 I mentioned earlier. Like to me, Rose and Cam Young is really, really intriguing because both of them are really, really volatile. I love the splits from Justin Rose, especially. And it's always, I think, just like smart and kind of productive to get different while also saving money, right? Like if you're wrong that Rose and Cam Young are that they have as much win equity as a Xander or a Tommy Fleetwood this week, that's okay because at least you're saving $1,000 per play on those guys compared to their more expensive counterparts. So you can get that combination. You can get Rose and Cam Young for the same as Fitzpatrick and Robert McIntyre or Shane Lowry or something like that. And that's just really, really intriguing to me. And at the moment, like I haven't run any ownership stuff yet. But at the moment, I think that Rose and Cam are the two most likely to really slip through the cracks up here.
I think all of this 9K range does, because Fitz is going to gobble up so much of the attention at $10,000 that Xander, like he said earlier, Xander's going to get his, Rom will get his, but they're going to be far lower owned than you would expect at this. Ludwig is the interesting one for me. I really don't know where to place him, because you could almost make a similar conversation about Ludwig as I did with Victor, that if you take out, and his iron play isn't as good as Victor, so that's one thing, but his driving tends to be a little bit better. But around the green tends to be his general bugaboo, that maybe at link style courses, this is a spot where Ludwig isn't going to be as big of a dog to a lot of these fields? Or do you think this is a place where if you have outstanding around the green, let's say Patrick Reed, Justin Thomas, Jason Day, all these guys, that maybe that's actually the route that we want to take here?
Yeah, I like that route. I'd also say like there's a weird dynamic with Oberg, because he's got a really good wind splits, which you wouldn't necessarily expect from somebody who hits the ball as high as he does, and he cannot control the flight. Like when he flights it quote unquote down for him, he's still hitting really high golf shots. I think that hurt him in a different way though with the Genesis this past week, where there were so many shots where like you need to land it in a certain section and have it release forward. Oberg just isn't used to that. He's used to landing the ball where he wants the ball to finish. And he seemed to really be struggling with that. And then when he was, trying to say, okay, well, I don't want to land it at the flag. I want to land it 20 yards short of the flag. Like he was just missing the spot over and over and over again. Some of that was misjudging wind. Some of it was like, again, like he's just, I think that's a really uncomfortable thing for him to try to do. And like, maybe his mind doesn't see that shot. And a lot of the time your ability to hit a shot is tied to your ability to actually like envision it and seeing it happen in your mind first. So that's weird, because like too, it's not like he grew up in America. Like this is the kind of golf course that maybe he should be maybe a little bit more accustomed to than a lot of these players. But that was not an encouraging sign to see him struggle like that last week.
Well, the other part of it too is that Victor, a lot of these Nordic players, they're TrackMan players by and large. A lot of Canadian guys are the same way, that there's only so much golf that you can play year round unless you move somewhere else until you get a little bit older, go to college. That most of your formative years, where I really do think a lot of short game is built. Like with you, how good would you rate your short game? When you go to these US Open qualifiers, are you an above average or below average short game guy?
Below. Very clearly below.
And you're from the Northeast. Like how many Northeast guys really are that great around the greens?
I think it's a great point. Yeah. And I like putting is easy to do indoors. Chipping is not. Bunker play is not. And I like the term like TrackMan golfer, because it's also like how good are you when the lie is, it's not flat. So whether the ball's above your feet, below your feet, whether it's an uphill lie, downhill lie, like in that regard, I think playing in the Northeast is actually good, because every single golf course in the Northeast has elevation change and undulations in the fairways. And, Florida golf courses, for example, are the polar opposite. It's as flat as can be. Florida's the flattest state in the entire country. So I think you get like both sides of that. But to me, so when I think TrackMan golfer, I tend to think of, you're really good on flat lies when everything is perfect and in your favor, but can you adjust your swing accordingly when you need to make those little adjustments? But it also very clearly applies to, are you able to practice your short game year round, or are you just practicing your ball striking year round and maybe some putting indoors as well?
If there's one thing I've learned over the past few years, it's that getting good sleep is the biggest performance enhancer of them all. I've had my Helix mattress for years now, and it's honestly held up just as well as the day it arrived. It's supportive, comfortable, and I don't wake up with stiffness that I used to get on my old mattress. And even better, I sleep through the night instead of tossing and turning and getting too hot. And that's made a huge difference in how I feel every morning, because I gotta get to sleep early, because I gotta get up early with this newborn running around. Not really running, more or less sitting like a baked potato, but still, he gets up early, so I gotta get up early. And if you're thinking about upgrading your sleep setup before the busy season ramps up, Helix has more than 20 different mattress models, including cooling upgrades for those hot summer nights. So there's something that fits exactly what you need. Plus, every mattress comes with a 120-night sleep trial, a limited lifetime warranty, and the Happy with Helix guarantee, so there's really no risk. And you can head over to helixsleep.com/mayo to get an extension on the 4th of July sale still. 27% off, and that's exclusive to you at helixsleep.com/mayo. And after you check out, make sure you enter my show name so they know that I sent you. Listen, every year, right around the Masters, I tell myself, this is the year I'm going to become an outdoor person. Then reality hits. The patio furniture looks like it's been through a US Open setup, and it's nowhere as comfortable to sit as I want, and somehow I end up watching golf inside while perfectly good weather sits there through my window. So this year, I finally fixed that with WAYFAIR. I'm watching golf outside, checking the final rounds. It's awesome because the weather is heating up right now. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that I've used my backyard more in the past few months than I did the few previous years combined. I'm upgrading the seating, added some lighting, got some actual decor out there, and now it's become the place where I have coffee in the morning, dinner with family, and inevitably end up watching the late golf window while pretending I'm keeping an eye on the kids when I'm really just watching golf. Because I'm here working for you, all right? The one thing I tell anyone to buy immediately, an outdoor sectional from WAYFAIR. It's the Scottie Scheffler of patio purchases, but it's not going to let you down on the 72nd hole. It'll be there for you all the way, more like Scottie from the past 2 years. It's expensive enough that you think about it for a while, then once you have it, you realize it was obviously the right decision. And if you've never shopped WAYFAIR before, I tell you to stop making this harder than it needs to be. They got everything. You can check millions of reviews from actual customers, use WAYFAIR Verified to cut through the nonsense, and they even have assembly options available so you don't spend your entire Saturday afternoon trying to put together patio furniture while yelling at an Allen key. Patio season is here, and these deals won't last. Ready to upgrade your home for way less? Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home and get your space ready for less. That's WAYFAIR.com. Let's talk about something no one in endurance sports likes to admit. You can be training your ass off, cardio, stress, not recovering properly, and yeah, it can mess with your performance everywhere because it all comes back to blood flow. Most guys jump straight to pills. That's just treating the symptom. The real key is nitric oxide. That's what controls circulation, endurance, and yeah, performance. That's why Joy Mode actually makes sense. It's a natural booster that supports nitric oxide production, not the fake pixie dust stuff. Just tear open a packet, mix it like an electrolyte drink, and you are good to go. Use it when you need it, or use it daily to raise your baseline. Think of it like training. One dose helps, consistency changes everything. If you want to support sexual performance the same way you support training and recovery, naturally and intelligently, Joy Mode has a deal for my listeners. Go to tryjoymode.com/mayo or enter mayo at checkout for 20% off. Joy Mode, the electrolyte packet for your dick. With all of the changes to this course, and I went over that in both my article and on the research show, which is already out. Jared, bring up the graphic here. We got the rest of the schedule for the week. So the research show is already out. The column is already out. Picks and bets are already out. Now, this is Tuesday morning, so you are watching this show. That is up there now. Later this evening, Keith will join me for the final word on the Open as we go through everything. Me and him both hit Tom Kim last week, so it's going to be a very exciting show. And then on Wednesday night, I'm going to have the picks cheat sheet coming out, sent directly to you in the newsletter. Additionally, you can sub to that for free down in the description right now. Hit your inbox. And then on Wednesday evening, Cam and I are doing the final picks. We'll update the weather, Blickle's ownership, and then we'll be taking questions from the audience in the round one recap, the Cut Sweat Live. But to that point of Florida is a very interesting thing here because the one thing that was pointed out to me through the research was Birkdale's very flat, unlike a lot of these Open Championship venues. And when I went back in time, guys that had played really well at PGA National. Now, it's only a sample of 2 Open Championships, but by and large, those leaderboards were filled up with vintage PGA National guys. And even when you take a look at the ones who've, the Alex Norins of the world, who've had really good runs at that course in the past. So I was starting to think like Players Championship, old PGA National before the overseed. I'm wondering if that persists with some of these changes.
I would think so. I think one of the things that you notice with PGA National is you get the same kind of test that I was talking about earlier, where like you have to be very precise about your landing areas. You also get the wind crossover, right? Like there's typically more wind at PGA National than most PGA Tour events. So I don't mind that at all. And I think like precision iron play, accuracy off the tee, making sure you're consistently in play and you're giving yourself those opportunities, especially like if you're a Victor Hovland or a Colin Morikawa, your ability to be accurate off the tee isn't just about putting yourself in play. It's also saying, what is the biggest strength that you have over the field? It's your iron play. The more you're in play off the tee, the more opportunities you have to use your greatest skill that's at your disposal to help you separate from the field.
Well, overall accuracy isn't there for JJ Spawn. When I did the deep dive, when you take courses with fairways that are difficult to hit or ones where the rough penalty is exceptionally high or simply missing the fairway is exceptionally high, his strokes gained total goes way up. His strokes gained driving goes way up. Because I do think that looking at Oakmont isn't the craziest thing either, because there was a lot of very British Open-y players near the top of that leaderboard.
He's probably the most confusing guy in the field to me because on like the surface, he has really bad splits on difficult golf courses. But you dig in a little bit more with that, and what you realize is his main problem in these difficult courses, he just has way too many rounds where he's awful. But when he's not awful, he can still be JJ Spawn. And when his game is clicking, as you mentioned, like he's accurate off the tee, he's a great iron player. So when it clicks on these difficult courses, he's got the skill set you want. He's got the Morikawa and the Hovland type skill set that can really help a player, get to the top of leaderboards. You just have to hope that he's actually good JJ Spawn and not bad JJ Spawn, because bad JJ Spawn will miss the cut in a hurry for you.
He will, and maybe for DraftKings wise, that's not the case. I bet him to win at 80-1. Took my 5 places along with it. He fit a lot of the criteria that I was looking for. Hit his irons really well in Scotland last week. Has played well in the wind. Has won Valero twice. And there is a drivable par 4, so expect him to make eagle in the final round on that. And it's one that really plays to a guy that hits a controlled left to right type shot off the tee, which is exactly what he does. He can just kind of plod his way along here, that if he can utilize the ground from around the green. But again, he's another one of those guys that some weeks he's good around the greens, other weeks he's god awful. He's not the most consistent guy with the short game, putter included, but him being what you had said about the irons before and maybe help alleviating some of the issues that you might have around the green. He's one of the highest guys on the list for me with that. And when I took these hard driving courses, be it the Players Championship, PGA National, Valero, like all of a sudden JJ Spawn was like, oh yeah, those are all JJ Spawn courses.
I mean, like I said, like he's the most confusing player in the field to me, because the other thing you can say is like he's played poorly at every single major championship. He missed the cut at the Masters. He missed the cut at the PGA. He missed the cut at the US Open. Okay, JJ Spawn's not good at major champions. Wait a minute. He just won the US Open last year. So like he very clearly is. The US Open last year was very clearly a difficult scoring condition golf course for all 4 days. So overall, he's been bad in those conditions. But when he wasn't, he won the freaking US Open. So yeah, I think his range of outcomes is massive, which means that I absolutely support the outright bet for sure. And I would also say, like, if he's your separator at $6,700, that's a really good play. If you already have separators in the lineup, maybe don't go with JJ Spawn. Maybe go with a quote unquote safer Siwoo Kim or Tom Kim or something like that in your lineup. So I think whether or not you're using him in DraftKings is probably more predicated on the rest of the lineup for whether or not he makes sense.
I know that Tom Kim is going to be a popular DraftKings play, if not the most popular DraftKings play. But should we even worry about that? Is he just a great play right now?
It seems like it. And he's also a really good fit for the course. Like that's something we've seen in Open championships, excluding the Open at St. Andrews. Like we pretty consistently see diminished driving distance predictive value and an increase in driving accuracy's predictive value in Open championships. It makes sense when you think like Michael Kim was talking about hitting 4-iron, like 290 downwind with the fairways this firm. I think the one area where distance can be helpful is it gives you more options off the tee, where the primary concern off the tee is avoid pot bunkers. And so if you can take out a pot bunker that most of the field can't, because you can just carry it over that one, then that's an area where distance is really going to help. But for the most part, these guys can use the firmness of the fairway to get the ball to roll out to wherever they need it to go to. And then it's just a matter of, giving yourself as many iron opportunities as you possibly can, as we talked about.
This will be a less than driver course. So a lot of players' accuracy is really going to rise this week if they're not trying to go. Do you think Bryson will hit driver on every hole? Just because?
No, but I'd also say, like, if I were Bryson DeChambeau and I knew that my approach play and short game were not up to snuff with the rest of the like really elite players in the world, I don't think it would be the worst idea to pull driver more than what most people probably should, and basically say like, well, maybe I just need to get closer to the greens, because if I'm pitching the ball from 60 yards when they're, when they laid back with an iron and they're trying to hit this little segment of the green with an 8-iron, I might have a better chance of getting it close. So, like, he's one of those really, really big outliers where not only is he super long, but he's still really, really accurate. And it's like it's his only real separating skill at this point, at least this season. So what's smart for him might not be smart for anybody else.
He was Cust number 2 pick behind Sam Burns to win. Jared and I just went and played Birkdale on the simulator before we came in. I made a quad on the first hole because I got stuck in a pot bunker. Yeah. But they're treacherous, man.
They really, really are. I don't know how much you've dug into the change to the golf course, but I think number one, like the course got a lot better. And number two, I think the course got a lot harder. Now, it doesn't seem like conditions are going to be difficult. Like sun is going to be shining. It's not going to be that windy. The temperature is going to be warm for Scotland, which, Pat,
it's in England. It's in England, not Scotland.
Right. Correct. Sorry. How much would you give right now to go be able to play a round of golf in 70-degree temperature instead of like 100?
I mean, I like the 100-degree temperature. That's me. That's when that's when I do my best work. But yes, I mean, I play in 70-degree temperatures all the time. It's what I play in.
Is it that much cooler up there for you right now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Celsius. Well, it's really warm today. Let's see. What is 26 Celsius in Fahrenheit? So it's 78 degrees today, and it's a hot day today.
Okay, yeah, that's good for you. Because I'm going to be playing on Thursday in a memory guest with my dad, and I think the heat index is going to be like 106 or something like that. So I'm going to be watching the Open Championship, just jealous out of my mind for the conditions they're playing in. But point of all this being, like, scoring conditions weather-wise are going to be as good as they can possibly be, and I think that we're still going to see a leaderboard where, like, last time around, Spieth was the only guy to get double digits under par. It wouldn't shock me at all if that were the case again.
I can see that. And being a par 70, that's the case. Do you find it weird that both of the par 5s are in the final 5 holes?
Yeah, but I think it's also kind of cool. Like, I love golf courses that kind of buck trends in that regard. Like my home course in Pennsylvania has back-to-back par 5s on 7 and 8. And I love that. Like, it's just, I think it's cool. The other really, really awesome thing that this course does with its routing is now all 4 par 3s are meant to play in a different wind. So I think that's like a really cool test where it's not, oh, every par 3 you're hitting a draw up against the left to right wind. Like, you have to hit every single type of shot on these par 3s. It's a really, really cool design aspect that, like, you won't even think about that on most golf courses. Which way is the wind blowing, and how can you test every type of wind for these players in the par 3s? But part of that is, like, when you design a golf course in this part of the world, you have to think about it in a way that you wouldn't if you were designing it in Connecticut. But it's still really, really cool, and just one of those, like, nerdy golf things that I love.
What do you give Bryson's chances this week? So I've seen him as low as 65-1 in the betting market. Obviously, he's $8,400 on DraftKings. And to take a look, I mean, he's sandwiched in between all of these popular plays that everyone likes. Do you think he's a good DraftKings play?
I don't think he's a bad DraftKings play. I don't think he's a bad outright. I think it's similar to Spawn in that, like, you can build some lineups where Bryson does make a lot of sense. The one we made earlier where he was like the separator that we put in, I think that is a very, very good use of Bryson. If you already have separators in your lineup, I don't see a reason to click Bryson. The most encouraging thing that I can say about him is that while his splits don't look good, in basically all of the splits, he still has what I've called a really good boom rate. So he's gaining, I think I used, like, just pure math to derive what a boom should be defined as. And I think it was like gaining 3.3 true strokes on the field. And so he booms at a really good rate in every single split for the Open Championship, which I really, really like. So even though, like, he's not gaining strokes in these splits, when it's good, it's really, really good for him, which is kind of just Bryson's game in general. So when you're using him, like all this is to say, when you're using him for the pure upside case, which makes him maybe a better outright than anything else. And certainly means that when he fits a DraftKings lineup, it's because he's the low owned separator that you're looking for. If you get the A game from Bryson, that should be like the defining characteristic of your lineup. And you shouldn't need other high risk, high reward guys to also play to their upside.
So to take a look at what you said about boom rate and however you want to quantify it, obviously yours is going to be a little bit higher than what we're showing right now at the rabbit hole. Again, betspertsgolf.com, code Mayo, get yourself the discount. Over the past 18 months, guys that have gained 3 or more strokes, the percentage of rounds that they do that. Scottie at an absurd 47%. Bryson, number 2. And those are all in major championships that we're calling here. This is not from Live, 40%. Rory, Neiman, Hatton, Rahm, Fleetwood, Alex Fitzpatrick, $7,400 this week. Goddard, Xander, Morikawa, and David Pooch down at $6,500. He likes Spawn. I think, honestly, is a very good separator down there. When he gets hot, he goes crazy hot.
Yeah, we saw that in one of the rounds at the Scottish. Like, he didn't even play that well for the week, but one of the rounds you needed him in Showdown, or at least he really would have benefited you if you had him in Showdown. So I don't like that, or I don't dislike that call at all.
And he's just someone with, a lot of European experience. I tend it doesn't always work out, obviously, but if you're going to have a tiebreaker, I'd take the European guy over the American guy, all things being equal here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, just from just looking through the wind splits, like Europeans are more likely to have really good wind splits than Americans. Like that's clear as day to the eye.
Matthew Jordan, very high up on this list too, and only his 14 rounds that he's played. It's something like Peter Uihlein, Francesco Laporta are number 1 and 2 where they've gained over 5 strokes in one of the 4 rounds over the past 18 months that they've played. Probably throw that one out. Pooches are all in majors, so that's interesting to see. So is Uihleins, in fairness. Seeing Neiman keeps popping up in a lot of these weird places. What do you make of him at 73?
Yeah, I think he's a pretty solid play. So we already talked about the fact that Siwoo Kim, Tom Kim in the upper 6s are probably going to be really, really popular plays. There are a lot of guys in the low 7s who are very intriguing potential pivots off of those guys. Neiman is one of them. I think Jordan Spieth is one of the most intriguing. Here's a fun fact for you. When you think of Jordan Spieth, you probably think of him in the same way as we just kind of discussed Bryson and Spawn, right? Where he can be really, really good for you, but man, he can also just totally sink your lineup in a moment's notice, right?
Yeah. I would say just in general, I consider Spieth that guy, but without the spikes.
Fair point. But so interestingly, in these splits, in major championships, in windy conditions and in difficult conditions, he has really good splits. But the reason has been the opposite of what I think of when I think of Spieth. It's because he's done a phenomenal job of avoiding those really negative rounds that we often think of when we think of Spieth. And so I don't know how much of that to expect to continue into the future. And it is still a little bit concerning that even though he's avoiding those blow up rounds, he's not getting the boom rounds that you need for him to go contend. But certainly that makes him pretty interesting just in terms of if you get Spieth at, let's say, 8%, when Siwoo Kim and Tom Kim are, let's say, 20, 30%, I think I'd probably go to the Spieth side, especially if I have a chalkier lineup up top.
I would agree, but you also have Minwoo Lee, who's sandwiched in there, who coming off of a second place finish, I think the people are going to get behind. He's sort of the opposite of what we talked about earlier with Brian Harman, where Minwoo, they'll just put it whatever number. People are like, let the chef cook. Let me bet on that guy. People love betting on Minwoo and coming off a good week. So this entire range, 69, 69, 68, Siwoo, Minwoo, Tom Kim, I think it's going to go Tom Kim, Siwoo, Minwoo, but all 3 of those guys are going to have ownership. Where if you just go up, you can go up to Spieth to be a pivot. You can go up to Alex Fitzpatrick, who I like more, to be a pivot. Aaron Rai seems tailor-made for this course.
Yeah, I think one of the other points that we should kind of make up front here is there are 27 players from $7,000 through $13,300. There are more than that, way more than that, in the 6K range alone. So if your goal is to find a low-owned guy in the 6Ks that you like, you're going to be able to do that. No question about it. There are so many pivot options down here that you're going to be able to find that you feel quite confident in. So if you want to play chalk up top, like this is one of the weeks where it's very, very easy for you to do that and then find a separator down below.
So let's just talk about these 7Ks then, because we spoke briefly about Lowry. I'm kind of out on Lowry, although the PGA National Comp, not something to scoff at here. Maybe you can learn how to putt. But Burns, Henley, Koepka, Thomas, Alex Fitz, Neiman, Spieth, Rye, Cantlay, Reed, and then you have Hideki at $6,900. Do you have preferences here? Because on paper, Henley rates out perfectly. I don't know what the hell is going on with him. But Alex Fitzpatrick, Aaron Rye, Patrick Reed, and then Henley. And every time I went through the research, Justin Thomas's name just kept popping up. I have no faith that he's going to be any good. But he's just sitting here at $7,500. It seems too little.
My guy's Henley, as you mentioned. I think, like, on the one hand, yeah, he hasn't been quite as good lately, but he's still been really good. He won the Schwab and then 22nd at the Memorial, 12th at the Travelers. We just haven't seen a lot of him, right? So a lot of, like, when people think of who are the guys who are most in form, it's who's played really well at the most recent tournaments that I watched. And Henley just hasn't been there for most of those. But outside of the poor performance of the U.S. Open, like, he's still been playing really, really good golf. So I'm very much in on Henley at this price. I think he's arguably the most underpriced player in the entire field, but I don't think he'll be owned that way, as you mentioned. So I really like him. And yeah, there's definitely a lot to like about JT. There are also some splits to not like about JT. Like, he has some of the worst major championship splits of anyone over $7,000. He has some of the worst difficult condition splits for anyone over $7,000. So if you're looking for a reason to not play JT, you do have them.
Well, you can just go to Brooks instead. We can use, so you can put, I was playing the all PGA National lineup here for a second. JT has the win, Brooks has the second, Lowry has all of the seconds, Henley has a win, Rory has a win, Clark has a second, Jake Knapshot's 59. That course, Jake Knapp's $6,700. His ball striking was really good in Scotland all of a sudden. And that's the one thing that he hadn't had since returning back from injury, was that the driving, the chipping, and the irons were all piss poor. And he wasn't getting by. He was missing cuts, but he was still putting. He didn't putt at all last week, which is something he had done all year. But all of a sudden his driver was back, and all of a sudden his irons were back. If this was 3 months ago, Jake Knapp would be the same price as Robert McIntyre.
Yes. Yeah, that's that's a very easy way in your mind to picture, like, okay, who's underpriced, who's not, is where would this guy be priced if he just kept playing that same level of golf or something like that. So I very much agree there. But I would also say that, like, you look at the guys around him in price, JJ Spawn, Harris English, Tom Kim, Siwoo Kim, like, there you can get similar upside guys with a much better current floor. Akshay Bhatia down at 66, Nikolai Højgaard 66. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get to Knapp here, but I definitely see the argument.
Could I lose money on Kitayama for the 20th consecutive week? Because I feel like doing it.
Kitayama, Rayton, 6,500 each. Like, yeah, the $6,000 range is just loaded this week. But and same point I made earlier, like, it's loaded with guys who we just think of as much, much, much better players long-term than this price. It's also loaded with guys who have just been rock solid over the last couple of months. So whatever your personal preference for how you pick PGA DFS players, you're going to find what you're looking for in this 6K range for sure this week.
You mentioned the 6Ks are loaded, and there's a ton of guys that I want to bet to play from down here. But how do I properly leverage this area? Because you can go as low as, I bet on Gary Woodland to win. I think he has the right type of game for this course. And he has, that veteran presence, a former U.S. Open winner at the same time, and very accurate on courses which demand accuracy, which is not something you would expect from him. And I think that there's a good Texas connection with him too. I like Ryan Gerard from down here as well. But I play those two guys, and I have $9,000 left. How do you think that's going to affect how people construct lineups? Because there's going to be enough guys down here that people like, that they can build super lineups. Like, Cuss picked Hao Tong as well, and I don't necessarily disagree with him that he's played well at this course before. He's played well at Open Championships. He seems to thrive in these settings, but you could also just click on JT Poston, who's all accuracy, puts the lights out, won at Memorial, played awesome at Shinnecock Hills. You put these three guys in a lineup, and you can just build the super team at the top. Do you think that people are going to lean towards that style of lineup, or that first lineup that I put through that had 4 8K guys in it?
It's such a good question. And I think for most of this season, the answer's been pretty clear that they're going to load up on like this, call it a ROM through Fleetwood range as much as they possibly can, where they're going to, try to get 3 of those guys or something like that. And I think that's still my default answer here. And especially because like you don't even have to go to the lower 6Ks to make that work, right? Like you could take Rory out of what you have here and toss Fleetwood in there or toss Shoffley in there. And now you get to some of the more popular upper 6K guys who we know are going to project extremely well from like every single projection source around the industry. So Tom Kim, Siwoo Kim, um, yeah, and then so yeah, like either Woodland or Gerard can become Tom Kim, and maybe we can just leave it there.
Yeah, well,
But
we have Tom Kim in, then you can go Fleetwood, Fitz, and Xander instead of Rory and
yeah,
whoever else
that
we
works.
have.
Sorry, I meant Siwoo instead of Tom right there. But yeah, this works as well. So like, I think this is probably still the default, but whereas most of the year the 8Ks have been very clearly like, oh, the 8Ks are gonna be overlooked this week. Now we've got Morikawa, Goddard, Hovland, Clark's on fire. McIntyre just played well, and everyone likes playing him in Europe. So I think we're probably going to see a healthy mix of pretty much every type of lineup, and maybe the way to get contrarian this week is to start with Scottie and then go Scottie and another stud, and then just load up on the 6K range that you really like. Or I wonder, is it possible to do Scottie plus Rory?
Oh yeah, I don't think that's like overly challenging at all. Just especially based on what we just put out there. So yeah, post in,
So, yeah,
Gerard, Woodland. I'll go in.
yeah.
And then you find one more guy from down here who's at $6,000 or just right.
We're 100 short of who. My pick.
Oh, you're Keith Mitchell.
Every time
You know who did rate out well for me was Bud Cauley. Doesn't this feel like hey, another guy that good Texas player, plays well at courses that demand that you hit fairways, be it the Players Championship. Hell, even TPC Toronto. Well, it's not difficult to hit those fairways. There is a premium on hitting the fairway there.
Yep, I think he's a very good call here.
Great short game.
Michael Brennan, 5,900, awesome ball striker right now, and we know how much he scores. So he's seemingly stepped it up for majors this year. The weekend was not good at the PGA Championship, but other than that, like there aren't that many players on tour who have made all 3 major championship cuts. You've got a $5,900 guy who has, and we know he has real upside to his game. So I think he's a decent play as well. Like again, there are just so many different options. So this is a combination that I don't think many people will use, this Scottie Rory start, but it's, as you see here, like it's actually quite doable. So maybe that's something worth really considering as well.
I'm trying to find who I would want to use down low. Oh, Stenson, $5,200. James Nichols is out in the first group. I did have the first groups up. Matthew Baldwin, Dietrich, and James Nichols. And to emphasize this point again, everyone at the Open Championship plays from the first hole. There are no tee splits. So when we think about that, let's say we do catch some weather, because the weather right now looks fine. Like there's no discernible wind splits or anything like that. But let's say one of those pops up. And we've seen this appear at Open Championships in the past, where you get these like micro splits. Yes. Most emphasized in the year with Henrik Stenson and Phil Mickelson. And you even had JB Holmes and like Beef were other guys who were part of that like 30-minute window, where if you played in that 30-minute window, you were going to do pretty well on the Open Championship leaderboard. That I think if you're going to stack tee times, it's not an AM, PM thing. It's like a first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter type thing.
Yeah, I was doing that sort of thing at Aronimink on the weekend, and that's what I'm going to be doing in my Discord again this week. Is like, I think I'll probably break it into 8 different segments, and the contest sims that I run will have like varying scenarios for each one, and yeah, you can just get lucky with a pocket, as you said, and I think it's very much in play this week, and like you don't have to see anything in the actual weather forecast to play that. One of the easiest ways to pick a segment is to just kind of look through the tee times. You already know ahead of time which players you generally like versus which ones you don't really want to play this week. And when you find a segment of like, hey, here's a group of 4 tee times back to back to back where I can build a lineup full of players that I really like who are all in this little window. Now you just play those guys and you hope that it breaks your way from a weather standpoint, that's a really, really smart way to build.
So a way to do that, even if we look at the tee times right now, because eventually, if you're trying to fill out lineups to begin with, you're going to get a bunch of $6,000 guys. So where can you go to where there is a condensed pocket with enough salary to make it work? Right here, starting at 9:25 a.m. It goes Hideki, Minwoo, Henley, Rose, Hovland, Thomas, Noren, Day, Scheffler, Hatton, Bryson, Spieth, Fleetwood, Rahm. And even like Harmon, Siwoo, Gerard are right there, along with Pooj, Nick Taylor. I actually think is somewhat interesting this week because he hits fairways. Good iron player. Has never really played really well in major championships outside of playing pretty well at Oakmont last year, which I thought was somewhat interesting. But if let's say you're big on Scottie this week, that pairing him with these guys right now will make your teams inherently unique because you're like guys are. Like he might pop up in Bryson lineups, but you're not going to get a lot of Scottie, Bryson, Spieth, Fleetwood, Ryan Gerard, Alex Noren lineups, for example. Not that you should, maybe you shouldn't have those, but that is a pocket where the lineups actually do work. Or Scheffler Rahm because they're playing next to each other. That very few people are going Scheffler Rahm.
Right. And one of the reasons why this works is because when you think of like the weakest players in those lineups, like you mentioned Alex Noren, for example, what you're saying is this lineup could work because the scoring conditions end up so much easier for this little pocket where now it takes Noren from being like I guess he's fine at 6,400, but like he's not as good as a lot of the upper 6K guys in terms of just his probability of success. And you're saying, well, in these conditions, he actually would be. If the scoring conditions are ripe for the rest of your lineup, then that means they're also great for Noren. And now Noren becomes one of the highest probability 6K guys, and you're getting him at much lower ownership than what many of them are going to be. So that's why this like style of lineup building just really makes a lot of sense. And I like this quite a bit. And in that same range, like there's a trio, I think it's Henley, Rose, and Hovland or something like that, where like,
right here.
I really like all those guys. So yeah, you could build around that pocket as well and do something there. And it's close to Scottie, so you could do the same thing with that group of three. You could also choose a whole new group of six. Really, whatever you want to do. But yeah, I like all of them.
So yeah, you could go to those guys. Who else? Akshay, Harris English was another one. And I feel like I'm going to end up either betting him or playing him or just doing something with Harris English, and it's going to turn out horribly, but. That's kind of where I'm at right now. You probably don't need Bryson in this lineup, but Bryson works with this lineup if you want him to. Rahm was also another one who fits in there. So you could go like Rahm, Bryson, and then 68 was what, Siwoo? Or was he Siwoo 69? So it's Minwoo, actually. He's also
68
69.
is Minwoo or Tom Kim, then 69 is Siwoo. You can also go a little bit cheaper, which I think, by the way, is like one of the things that just strikes me as we kind of talk through all this is there are so many guys who are underpriced. And for those of us who play DFS every single week of the year, like we generally kind of just have like a picture in our mind of how likely to succeed somebody at $6,700 should be. And this is a week where we kind of have to just get rid of that thought, because if we're using that like traditional barometer of success for $6,700, like every single one of these guys is going to be a good play. And we instead have to think about, do I really like Harris English at 67 because English at 6,700 sounds good? Or do I really like Harris English at 67 because I think he's a better play than Spawn, Harmon, Batia, Straka, Kitayama, Rayton, Tom Kim, Siwoo Kim, Minwoo Lee, Patrick Reed. Like it's a hard thing that we have to do this week, but I think to like somebody, you actually have to like them more than all of the other options you can pivot to this week. And it forces us to kind of desert our just kind of instincts when it comes to DFS pricing.
Well, a lot of it would have to do as well that generally the guys that we would consider the low 7K guys are now low 6K guys, like Ryan Gerard, who, if it does get windy, I'd like him a lot here.
Yeah, and the low 9Ks are now $8,200 like Wyndham Clark. The 8K guys are now $7,000 like Patrick Cantlay. It's a very, very intensely soft pricing this week.
So let's do this. We kind of talked through the Millie Maker strategy and just different ways that you can approach your lineups, how to build lineups that aren't off the reservation here, but are unique enough that could give you a distinct path, even using some of the chalk guys. That we've done. If we want to pivot to single entry or three max, or hell, I was considering even playing the 888 that you told me this week that, I'm not going to pony up the $4,444 to play in the Millie. I tried to qualify. That didn't work. But if I do the 888, what do you think that lineups in one versus the other start to look like? The Millie Maker giant GPPs versus single entries in three max and some of the super multi-entry big money this week. Do you think that changes the dynamic of the types of lineups that we see?
A little bit. I think the biggest change that you'll notice is in some of the smaller contests, you'll see more lineups that go to guys like the one you built earlier, where it was like Gerard and Woodland or whoever you went to there in that low 6Ks. And when you get into the higher stakes contests, you're just going to see a much larger concentration on the guys who project the best in the 6K range. So, like, you'll see, let's say Tom Kim is 20% in the large $200 single entry, or in a $12 single entry, or even in like the $25 Millie Maker. Let's say he's 20% there. Then in the $4,000 mega, he might be 40%. So you're just going to see like a much bigger concentration on the quote unquote obvious plays. And then like those lineups will tend to deviate more in the 8K range like that, right? You'll see Bryson get played there at a pretty similar rate to what he gets played in the $25. You'll see Cam Young get played there at a similar rate to the $25. So I think that's the biggest difference. But I would also say that compared to most weeks, you're kind of just going to see the same types of lineups across the board, because it's so easy to build lineups that there's no like funneling into a certain type of lineup by this pricing. You can do whatever you want. Where, take last week, for example. Last week, Scottie Scheffler was 5% owned, not because only 5% of people in the contest thought that Scottie Scheffler was a good play. It was because if you used Scottie, you couldn't build a lineup with like even three more guys that you felt good about clicking. And so everyone was funneled into a more balanced build. This week, because pricing is so soft, you can build whatever lineup you want. There is no funneling into certain roster construction types.
So, okay. So the lineup that I've just pulled up is a variation of the first one that I built, sort of my first instinct lineup. For single entry, do you think I can get away with something like this? Although I'm going to have a very popular Fitz, a very popular Tom Kim. But what you just spoke about, that, yeah, those guys are going to get overemphasized. But the main builds that we were talking about earlier were those 3 9K or up to Rory, up to Scottie, whatever it is, and then down below with Tom Kim and another guy. If I stick with this balance build, I'll with Hovland, Clark, McIntyre, I got rid of Goddard and threw in Morikawa for this one just to try to make it work and use up all the salary. That independently, those four guys might be popular, but I feel like a lot of people will either be picking one or two of these guys and not all of them together. Can I get away with jamming all these guys together?
This is a really cool question. I think the answer is no, but it's for an interesting reason. So let's look at the pricing on the left-hand side of the screen. If you have the idea to kind of hammer the 8K range, there just aren't many combinations of players that you can do that with. So anyone hammering the 8K range is going to be very naturally on a very similar lineup. Whereas if you instead thought, I'm just going to go play like my four favorite 6K guys, and then I'll play Scottie with Fitzpatrick, now I think you could get away with it, because someone with the same thought elsewhere, like, so now you can scroll down. Let's just start clicking some of the obvious ones. Let's go Tom Kim, Siwoo Kim.
Yeah, Kim Lee.
Kim Lee.
Kim Lee. 61 is, who did we say was at 61? Poston, Dietrich, your boy Keith Mitchell, Bud Colley.
So, like, this is kind of the point here. For one thing, any of these final clicks are going to be very low owned. But also, if someone else has the idea to go Scottie plus Fitz plus all their favorite 6K guys, you're going to see a lot of those lineups land on other 6K guys that they really like. You're going to see some Spawn. You're going to see Harmon, Nikolai, Akshay, Kitayama. You're going to see a lot of Rayton. You're going to see some Adam Scott and Ricky Fowler, Keegan Bradley down here. Like there are so many guys in this range, unlike the 8K range, that you're just much, much, much less likely to run into very similar lineups where, the problem with that is it's hard enough to get into the top 1% of lineups. Let's say you end up in the top 1% or you're competing in the top 1% and you're trying to go get that takedown. The difference between first place and fourth place obviously is huge, right? But if you have a 2v2 off of somebody else, off of 3 other people, the chances that like your 2v2 is just that much better than theirs is really, really low. So now instead of having a pretty good chance that if you're in the top 1%, you're going to be the best in the top 1% and get the takedown. It's like now you have a coin flip at best to be that top guy. Or, maybe it's now you have like a 1 in 4 chance where if you just had a more unique lineup and your lineup performed that well, you'd be like the very clear favorite. And so it just, that to me, like you really, really want to avoid those instances where if everything goes according to plan, no matter which guys do well in your lineup, you're going to run into a 2v2 with 5 other competitors or a 1v1 with 2 other competitors. And you're just hoping that your guy happens to be the best because you don't have an edge in a 1v1 or a 2v2. You have an edge in the way you build the entire lineup. So you really want to avoid those instances as much as you possibly can, which is why I think the first type of build doesn't really work. This one where you're loading up on 6K guys where so many people are going to land on completely different preferences, you just have a much better chance at things.
But is that big of a consideration in a smaller tournament if I'm going out of my way to use those 4 8K guys? Well, yes, there are few 8K guys and the combos are only combos of plenty for people. There's only so many of them that you can have. But if people just simply are not building that way, they're going to build the other way. Shouldn't I be fine?
Well, so the question there is like, how many people do you actually think are going to build by really attacking the 8K range? I don't have the answer to that yet, but let's just take a look at the 277 person $200 single entry. One of my favorite contests. It's $10,000 to first place. 20% of the entire prize pool goes to first place out of 277. Second drops all the way to 6K. Third drops to 4K. Think about how happy you would be if you finished in second place and won $6,000 and then recognize that huge $6,000 win is the exact same difference as finishing first place and third place. So your odds of actually getting first when your lineup does really, really well still needs to be a massive consideration for you when you build the lineup. So if ownership, if the first ownership run comes out tomorrow afternoon and I've got like all these 8K guys, 15% or less, then yeah, you're going to be able to build that 8K lineup pretty confidently. But I think there's a pretty reasonable chance that like Wyndham and Goddard are both over 20% and Morikawa and Hovland are pushing 20 and Bryson's even at, 12 or 13.
I just don't think that they can get that high with where I know that Kim, and Fitz are all going to be. Those 3 guys are going to be 25 plus or around there in large field tournaments. That only leaves so much when you have to give Rory and Scottie and Tommy and Rahm and Xander like X amount of ownership as well that eventually you just can't afford the 8K guys.
True. But what we've also seen is like, ordinarily we're kind of accustomed to that sort of thing where you can only fit X amount of 8K guys, but like you can very, very easily have 4 or even 5 guys in this 8K range or above. And even if you start Fleetwood Fitz, you can very easily get 2 8K guys in there. So, or do it this way. Like, let's say Fitz is your first guy in, you can very easily get 3 or 4 even of these 8K guys. So
yeah, you could go Fitz, Xander, Hovland, McIntyre, Clark, and then you're down to $5,700, and it doesn't. So that's a bit more difficult. Actually, you can get 2 of them in pretty cut, and I think that people will start to get wigged out when they need to use Henny Duplessis or something.
I agree. So I think like this might be the pivot you make to your lineup, right? So instead of doing what you had previously was Fitz and then hammer the 8K range, maybe it's you try to get 2 9K guys. Maybe it's not Fitzpatrick. And then go 3 8K guys instead. And now you can still get, a pretty solid last man in. So like maybe it's Rom and Cam Young or something like that, or here you and Xander Rom. So yeah, now you could go a low 8K guy and you're going to be able to find a guy at 6K that you like.
And we can even drop down. You go Xander. No one is going to use Cam Young. Should I just use Cam Young since Underdog voided all my Cam Young plays? Just put him in these DraftKings lineups, and then I can get Spawn as my last guy in.
And if you want to eat the Tom Kim chalk, you could go from Shoffley to Rom here.
Yeah, or I can just use JJ Spawn, who I like.
Yep. So but honestly, like so if you want to go with Spawn instead of Tom Kim, then I think you can go back to that initial build. Like the problem to me with the initial build with the 4 AK guys plus Fitzpatrick plus Tom Kim was that you had the 2 guys outside of the 8K range that everyone else is most likely to click on if they have the same thought you do of, well, I'll just hammer the 8K range. If you're going to deviate off of those guys, now you're less likely to run into a 2v2 anyway, because in this lineup, like Spawn is a real separator. So if JJ Spawn's in the top 10, you're not dealing with, the other guys who have really similar builds to you. You're dealing with, because you're already way ahead of the lineup that shows Tom Kim, who's in 30th while Spawn's in 7th or something like that. So that was the main reason why I didn't love that build, was because your clicks outside of that build were already the most popular ones.
All right, so if we have to build a single lineup here, so I can open it back up here. We build one for single entry. Where are we starting?
I'll let you make the first decision here by saying, do you want to go with the chalk up top, or do you want to go chalk down below? Do you want to avoid all of it? What's your thought?
I think taking the chalk up top makes more sense to me.
Okay.
Just based on the way that Open Championship history has gone, that one of these top guys, so if you have the feeling about the top guy, and my guy is obviously going to be Fitz, then I think you just start with Fitzpatrick and then figure it out from there.
Start Fitz. Do you want to just now kind of find our favorite cheap guys who maybe are a little bit contrarian?
Sure. So Spawn would be one level for me. I think that there are plenty of options in these low 6s, though, that you can get away with that I think, like,
there are so many. Yeah.
Listen, if Woodland doesn't suck this week, he's going to score a ton.
Yep. I agree with that. I think Gerard at 64, he's playing really good golf. I think he's a great option.
Let's throw him in. So we go Fitzpatrick, Gerard to start. So we have 8,400. Okay. We can just hammer all the guys in the 8Ks again.
Yeah, we could do the exact same thing.
Because there's no one. See, here's the problem. There's no one in the 9s, and I don't think that I'm alone on this. We really couldn't make a decision. People are just wigged out by this 9K range. I don't think anyone likes any of the guys.
I love Justin Rose.
Okay, we'll throw in Justin Rose for you. So there's a separator right there. No one's going to use Rose. Yep. But he's going to be what, like 11% owned in big money, in big GPPs and single entries? He'll be like 5%.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically been like 10% flat in every single major so far, and all he does is ball out in majors. So I like Rose quite a bit.
The only other guy who hasn't been good that you could get away with, actually, there's 2 in the 6K range they didn't bring up. Straka and Connors would be the 2 I would look at.
Yeah, I've done the Connors and Straka thing so many times this year. It's usually not worked out. Connors at least is showing signs that maybe he's playing a little bit better golf. But I think with Rose and Gerard, we can go like Tom Kim, Siwoo Kim if we want to do that here.
But we don't need to. We have $8,000 left. Like for a single entry, would you want to go Tom Kim, Siwoo Kim and see what we have left? Like that's probably like Rory.
I think at the very least we should see what it gives us and then decide if that's something we want.
It gives us Tommy, who, listen, I'm just going to throw this out here. I think Tommy's the worst play on the slate.
I don't totally disagree. So why don't we pick our favorite of Siwoo and Tom Kim? Do you have a preference between the two?
I like Tom Kim because he might be able to make a 3-foot putt. I've seen that happen before. I've never seen that happen with Siwoo.
Okay. So now we could go, Cam Young Morikawa would be really good.
You could go low again. You could get back up to Rom. You could go like Bobby Mack, Rom is a 2v2.
Yeah, I think all of these options are really good. So I like what you just did quite a bit.
So as a single entry versus, hell, this would probably work in a giant GPP too, honestly.
Yes. So this works kind of well because now we have a separator down below and a separator up top with Gerard and Rose.
Yeah,
and now everyone else is just
we have the two most popular guys presumably on the slate with Fitz and Tom Kim, but with four guys who will carry ownership, but almost certainly not together.
right. And even if they do, it's okay because what we're saying here is if our separators hit, let's say Gerard finishes 12th place, Rose finishes 4th place. Like we're not even talking about the extreme scenario where they win. If we get those really good finishes from those guys, the rest of our lineup doesn't need to be who's going to go win us the tournament. It's who's going to preserve the advantage that Gerard and Rose just gave us. Fitzpatrick, McIntyre, Tom Kim, John Rahm is a very solid bet to do exactly that. And then maybe one of those guys does go and win. And that's why we don't need Rose or Gerard to win. We just need them to be better than the other, last two guys into a similar lineup like this. So yeah, I think this is a really, really strong build.
You can just take out Rahm, Rose, and Gerard and replace them with Clark, Goddard, and Victor. Just saying. And we're back to the original lineup that I built.
I think that's like an awesome kind of thing to look at. So how much more likely is that trio to have, three guys in the top 20 and maybe one in the top 5 than Gerard, Rose, Rahm?
You probably lose some of the winning upside because Rahm is involved in it. Although Wyndham Clark, has 2 major wins. It's not like he's some scrub.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that like the trio that we have here is definitely more likely to have a missed cut. But I think the win equity is very comparable. We might even have a more in this build, and we're getting that upside at much, much, much lower ownership, which is why I think this is a better lineup.
Okay. That will do it for the Millionaire Maker picks on DraftKings for the Open Championship. Alex spoke about his Discord. You can find the link to that down in the description right now. What are the chances I can make up 100 points in best ball this week to win the 40K and win best ball?
I think it depends on who you have left and how many. Does everyone have like 8-10 guys in the field?
Yeah, well, it's funny because Justin's in first place. Justin McMahon, shout out to him. He's doing pretty well. We've been talking back and forth about the entire thing. There's 3 of us who got 6 guys through the cut line at the Scottish. And he was looking worse. I had 11 guys in the field for the Open. He only had 8. And then he had Kiefer and Thorbjornsen, who played so well, they qualified for the Open. So that was doubly as bad as it turned out.
Yeah, that's a bummer. And Kiefer had to get so many points in those last 2 days. He might be like solely responsible for that 100-point gap. So yeah, I like your chances. I'm certainly rooting for you. And regardless, like I think you have done a major service for yourself of proving that you are in an industry where there are a lot of fake sharps. You're like the only fake not sharp, where you actually are sharp, even though you like to bill yourself as just someone out here having fun.
Well, I am having fun doing it, and I am not sharp whatsoever. I think that I just ended up selecting the right guys at the right time. The strategy was easy to figure out. I would like to frame it as if I could figure out the optimal strategy, everyone should be able to figure out the optimal strategy.
Maybe, but maybe it's also sharp to ask the right questions of what is the optimal strategy based on the format, while many people just said, oh, I'm doing a golf draft, I'll just go draft the best golfers. And obviously that was not the optimal strategy.
So here are the guys that we're rooting for. Oh, your boy, Keith Mitchell, we're rooting for him. And Matt Fitzpatrick winning the Open Championship would be huge. Just like him winning last week. I will take the money for Tom Kim with the bet. That's okay. I will sacrifice that. No one had Tom Kim. But Fitz winning and scoring that many points this week, I'm the only guy inside the top 10 with Fitz. So that's helpful. Fitz, Goddard, Mitchell, Burns, who's back, thank you, Michael Brennan, Eric Cole, Pearson Cootie, Michael Kim, my guy, Siwoo Kim, Matt McCarty, Seb Straka, and Chris Kirk. I don't even know who the guy who isn't playing. I think I might have all 12 guys playing. Is Eric Cole in the field? I think all these guys are in. I think I have all 12.
As you read off that team, it's like, those are all the guys I drafted. Why didn't I end up on that team?
I know. It's just you had to have them all together somehow. The thing was, I got Fitz I'm pretty sure this is one of the earlier drafts that I did, and I wrote up Fitz when I released all those articles. And he was going in like the 7th round in those drafts. And I stopped drafting him a ton, which I probably should have drafted more of him when he got vaulted up to like 19 ADP instead of 41 ADP. It's like this ADP doesn't make any sense. And then at 19, I was like, well, he's no different than anyone else here. So let me take like Corey Connors instead.
Yeah, I did a lot of the same where it was just like he was in every single one of probably like my first 8 of 20 drafts. So,
and I know that I drafted the big scramble. I filled my 20 lineups in that before anything else. Like I did a few just regular scrambles, a few PME ones. So I know that Fitzpatrick, Goddard, and I want to say Cootie or Siwoo were the most emphasized guys for me, and Chris Kirk. I was all over Chris Kirk as the last round pick, which turned out great for one round last week, the round that he needed to make the cut. The issue with this team was like Cole and Kirk and Cootie and all these losers just tanked on. They made the weekend, then they sucked.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had so much Mitchell, so much Nikolai and Wyndham, as like they've all had moments this year. The thing that killed me was still like if Wyndham had done everything the exact same he did, except he finished second at TPC Craig Ranch instead of first, and therefore played the next week, I'd probably be right next to you in the sweat. And instead, I got kicked out by like 35 points or something like that because Wyndham didn't play that final week. So it's certainly a game of margins, but obviously you played it really, really well. You have so many sweats here this final week.
We do. I'm in second in the PME Open as well. The final for that with the 8 people made a big move, went from 6th and with the second team inside the top 10. That's helping me ease my mind a little bit in the big scramble that I could finish like 2nd and 5th or something. And listen, I would be very happy to hold on to second here. There's 4. I think the lowest I can fall was 4th unless like all 12 of my guys miss the cut, which I suppose is on the table. It's my team. But with just everything, there's like a 100-point gap between me and first. And then after me, it's like 40 points, 70 points, and like 200 points. And making up, if I think it's going to be impossible to make up 100 points, someone else making up 200 points seems like a lot.
Well, I think it helps you that scoring conditions are probably going to be tougher than most weeks because now it's like pretty clear what you need. Number one is get guys through the cut, but number two is get those finish position bonus points because they're going to matter more this week than they would in a birdie fest.
Ooh, I just got an email from my golf club, an etiquette and dress code reminder.
Someone's been slacking. Was it you, Pat?
It was not me. I looked the part when I got my game doesn't have the part, so I need to look the part. So people are like, "Oh, that guy's probably pretty good." Like, look how he dresses. He looks like he's pretty good. It's like, nah, this guy sucks.
Look good, feel good, play good. It's true on the golf course.
Yeah, for my mind, yes. Although most of the best players I know would wear like flip flops and basketball shorts and just go fucking fire it around and be awesome.
Sometimes that works as well.
But they would go to the practice range if they were playing. I'm not saying that they're going to be dressed up like Tiger Woods out there. Like, do you wear pants all the time when you play, or do you wear shorts?
Shorts.
Yeah, okay. I can't for the life of me. Cuss does this all the time. It'll be like we had a day he had to quit due to heat exhaustion because it was 103 degrees when we played. He had to quit after 14 holes. He sat there wearing fucking pants.
So dumb. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, well, that's what the pros do.
When I first turned pro, I was like psyched to wear pants just because it was like, oh, this is what pros do, and I'm a pro now. And then like that was the only time I did it. I was like, oh, why would I voluntarily make myself that hot when I'm looking around and like there are other pros who aren't wearing pants? So it's not even like someone can, and there are amateurs who wear pants because they want to feel like a pro. So like it's not even a sign that oh, I know that guy's a pro because he's wearing pants. So yeah, I realized very quickly that it was silly to make myself that hot when I don't need to.
Oh, this is like a custom one too. Listen to this. Athletic jerseys are not permitted on the championship course. Footwear is required at all times in the clubhouse. Good Lord, who are these people? Appropriate denim apparel is permitted for colder weather. Cut off jeans that are torn, ripped, frayed, or patched are not permitted anywhere on the property.
That's funny. I'm surprised they even let denim at any point in time.
Well, okay, it does get. I told you how hot it gets here. When I'm playing in May, it's like 3 degrees Celsius sometimes. Like if all you got is a jean, I'm not wearing a jean jacket, but I assume that's what they mean.
I guess so, yeah.
Wearing pants or shorts noticeably below waist is not acceptable. I like this. They should be harsher. So what? I know that from the outside looking in, it feels like the most snobby, awful thing in the world. Once you're in, it's like, yeah, keep this riffraff out of here.
Just, I mean, I feel like I always have kind of unique viewpoints on these things because, I see people talk about like, oh, grow the game. And part of growing the game means like wearing, or being more flexible with what people can wear on the course. But I'm kind of with you like in that regard. I kind of want the game shrunk because then it means fewer people are playing and I can play around a golf quicker. But I will say like, it's it's sometimes nice to be able to immediately tell whether this person is going to be slow and I need to make sure that I'm, getting in front of them before I tee off or not based on just what they're wearing. And so that can also be helpful, like letting people wear whatever they want just so you can make a very quick assumption on their pace of play.
You can do that. Although some of those guys will listen. Some of the best players I know and the most like full gear, wearing the pants, are the slowest fucking people on earth. And they're like +1 handicaps. Like, oh my God, man. Like, you're a scratch golfer. We're not playing the US Open here. Like, you can hit this shot without lining it up for 25 minutes and then missing it anyway. Like, come on. Like, let's pick up the pace here.
Yeah, I feel like the pace of play discussion, like obviously we could talk about this for a long time, and I'm sure people aren't that interested in it. But I think the solution is actually more on like the micro level because like I know growing up playing a lot of Philly stuff, a lot of Pennsylvania stuff, they did such a good job of enforcing pace of play that like all of the good players that I know play quickly from my home area, and like you said, a lot of the really good players I know from like friends I made in Florida from playing down there for years. It's like they didn't learn that when they were younger and they play slow. And college golf was a freaking nightmare for pace of play. Same idea. And so yeah, I think I think those local enforcement just needs to do a better job, and then it'll be solved elsewhere.
Well, maybe it's a Northeast thing too, because Northeasterners are just gonna like chew you out on the course. Like there's no, like, if you're playing slow, you're going to hear about it from the group behind you. It's gonna happen because someone behind them is gonna fucking chirp them. They're like, it's not me, it's this fucking guy in front of me. And say it as loud as possible.
Hear it, like at my club, most people they finish a morning round on Sunday. Everyone goes and sits and eats lunch. And if you were the group who slowed everyone down, every single group that comes in, they're gonna say, man, you guys were taking so long. And everyone sitting there is going to point and go, it was their fault. It was their fault, and shame them that way. So yeah, like you only have to be the group that slows everyone else down once before you realize I'm not doing that again.
No.
So yeah, it might be a Northeastern thing as well that makes it less of an issue where I grew up.
Now, I'm not Feinberg when it comes to the attire that you need to wear. Like, if you don't want to tuck in your shirt, I don't fucking care about that. Like, that's not a big deal to me. Wearing, like, cut off, dressing like Tobias Bluth at the golf course, be like, okay, that's a bit much. Well, let's find a happy medium somewhere here.
Yeah, just look the part, right? Like, just wear nice golf clothes. And like the thing about nice golf clothes is they're typically really, really good in hot weather. Like they actually do a nice job of keeping you cooler than if you just wore like a regular t-shirt. So I like dressing that way because it's practical and also look good, feel good, play good.
Yeah. And listen, if you're so good you don't need to, well, you're in like the 0.1%, Alex. That just happens. Some guys are just awesome.
Yeah, true.
That will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Use code Mayo at Underdog to get yourself in. I sent out that newsletter blast. I actually texted you about it last night with that Cam Young mispricing. I tried to get in. They voided everything. Some people got mad at me because I sent it out. They're like, well, they voided everything. It's like, well, we're trying here. This is how you can. It was a lane to take advantage. Was it most likely to be voided? Yes. If it wasn't, you could be like free rolling 100K right now.
It's not like they weren't going to avoid it if like fewer people knew about it. Like it was either they were going to avoid it because they noticed the error, and obviously they were going to notice the error, and either their terms of service allows them to avoid it or it doesn't, and it did. So like, yeah, the people complaining about that are kind of silly.
Well, the weird part was it wasn't that I gave it away. It's just like they were mad that their bets got voided. It's like, well, that happens.
Yeah.
Like I even wrote that in the news. Like, these are most likely to get voided, but if you want an opportunity, this is an opportunity. Like, this is just. He was 16-1 for a top 20, which is even money?
Yeah, probably like plus 120 or something like that.
Yeah, so you take your shot, you hit it, then they're like, oh yeah, the shot doesn't count. It's like, all right, it's not like they took your money. You get your money back. Jesus Christ, people, man. Can't help people. Can't help people at all. Just want to be mad.
I'll tell you what, the Scottish was great for Pick'em though. I went, I think it was like 9 for 10 on the week on picks. It was a lot of fun, and I think we'll get the same sort of scenario. Like I talked last week about it. Like it's such a great opportunity on these European golf courses because wind direction changes more often, and the courses are designed in such a way where like the wind is part of the actual design, the prevailing wind. And so when you get things flip flopping and all that sort of stuff, you get some really, really big opportunities on Pick'em, and we took full advantage last week.
Yeah, so pick them on Underdog, code Mayo, get yourself a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. The first $5 pick and play that you play, you'll just get a bonus $50 on top of it. Initially, although the pricing isn't out as we're doing this for those fantasy props, under on fairways, under on greens and regulation, and over on hole 16, 17, 18 scoring were like the three things. Depending on, listen, it's all price sensitive. I feel like those will be overvalued for round one, and just guys aren't going to hit a ton of fairways here.
Yeah, it sounds smart to me. This past week, like it was funny how things were changing. Like on day one, the thing that I did was under, I think it was like 11 and a half strokes on hole 16 through 18 because they offered for like Fitzpatrick, Rahm, and Fleetwood. It was like, you're telling me all the three of the best players in the world have to do is shoot even par for the last three? Okay. And they were, I think even in one under. And then I had,
and I think that 18 was way downwind on that round too, wasn't it? Because there was one day that 18 played super easy.
Yeah. They were hitting 3 woods to the end of the fairway. Like it was great. So yeah, just like paying attention to stuff like that is really advantageous. And whereas like if you're talking about the Travelers Championship, you don't get changing conditions like from the morning to the afternoon anywhere near as severe as you do on these European courses. And so it's hopefully going to be another really good week in that regard.
All right. Well, if you want to stay up to date on that pick'em and what Alex is doing with the weather, along with some of the plays, whether it be DraftKings, betting, Underdog pick'em, join Blickle's Discord right now. That's down in the description. Sub to that for free, or not for free. Sorry, you got to pay for that one. But you use code Mayo, you get a discount, don't you?
Yeah, it's automatically in the link in the description. So you just hit that link, and the 10% forever, by the way, is automatically applied.
There you go. FTN Fantasy. You can use all of the tools at the rabbit hole by going to betsportsgolf.com. Code Mayo gets you 25% off. You can run the optimizer. You can use the old school Fantasy National lineup generator, which I still do because I love using that. It's the easiest way for me to build multiple lineups. Or you can just dig in and do all the research yourself. All right. I'll be back with Keith Stewart on Tuesday evening for the final word on the Open Championship. Until then, I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!